In studio right now is Pete Sobel. Pete is the chair of the Oneida County Republican Committee. Pete, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You know, there's a lot to talk about. First off, I just want to ask you right off the bat, I mean, how close is the Republican Party to having Donald Trump as the nominee?
I think we're pretty close.
It's pretty close.
I think tomorrow's going to be pretty telling.
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt that he's a front runner.
I mean, he's in the polls. You could take Cruz and Rubio and combine their numbers together, and they still don't beat him.
They're miles apart still.
Yeah.
I think people are looking for a change, but looking for a change that's not an establishment change. You're looking for a business owner, a proprietor that knows the real ins and outs of business and the issues with employees and healthcare. And I think Donald's shown that.
What about is this whole talk of conservatives who will not vote for Donald Trump no matter what? Fearful that the conservatives will stay home because they're not voting for Donald Trump, and they surely are not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Is that all basically a scare tactic by Rubio and Cruz to be able to get people out and reconsider that Trump vote?
I think so. I just don't think that anybody's sitting on their hands and going to stay home for this election cycle. I think people are they've seen what's happened for the last 8 years. Good, bad, or indifferent, people want to change, and
I can't imagine conservatives not voting for Trump and allowing Hillary Clinton to get in. If you had to choose between the two, I can't imagine conservatives would be like, all right, well, it's Hillary. I just don't see that.
I tend to agree with you.
All right, let's talk the local stuff here. Big meeting over the weekend, and out of that meeting came an endorsement of an outsider, which has sent some shockwaves through the Republican Party here in Oneida County.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
We had 5 candidates that reached out to us that were seeking the endorsement. They were all invited to the meeting. They all followed the procedure on how to get to our meeting and how to be able to speak to our committee. 4 of them showed up. The vote was taken, and the results are the results. Steve Wells won. Claudia Tenney came in second. I would say it was fairly close.
It was close, but I was surprised it came out. Explain how the process works. So it happened on the first ballot, which I'm told was pretty surprising. The debate was expected to go on longer. Well,
so first off, we only allow each candidate to speak for 5 minutes, and then the committee is allowed to ask questions for 5 minutes. We don't want to spend everybody's day to be at this meeting.
Which one wasn't at the meeting?
Aaron Price from Broome County didn't show. So we went through the process. All 4 candidates were nominated. They spoke. We went through the voting process. It took 1 vote. Steve Wells took greater than 50%, which deems him the winner. 50% plus 1. Assemblywoman Tenney came in second. Martin Babinec came in third, and then George Phillips came in fourth. And the 2 of those on the bottom side represented about 10% of the vote.
Got it. And the Babinec is here's the guy that will need the Wilson-Pakula in order. But you're explaining how that works. That has to come from Herkimer County. But it can't happen.
So what happens with a Wilson-Pakula?
Because he is not a registered Republican.
Correct. He's currently registered as independent.
Yeah, independent.
Independent. Therefore, in order for him to get any other party line, what he has to do is carry the designating petitions and file them. At that point, the state party will then notify the chairman of the jurisdiction. In my case,
it would be
County. No.
Oh, no.
It would state chairman. So in my case, it would be Ed Cox, who would then he would then have to convene all 8 county chairs. And the majority by weighted vote would have to vote in favor of that in order to give him the Wilson-Pakula.
So that's interesting. So that does not. So it's not Herkimer County's decision.
That's correct.
What do you think will happen there?
I'm not sure if he will carry.
Yeah.
My committee has made it clear to me that if he does, that their intention is to support the endorsed candidate. So they've requested me. In other words,
you would not.
Yeah. Their request is that I not issue a Wilson-Pakula.
And I'm told right now that the Herkimer County committee is saying that they will not block him.
Correct.
So, all right, that clarifies that for me.
And let me just narrow something down for you. So you got 8 counties, and you have to figure out the population and the size of the vote for each county, right? So Oneida County is the largest. We're just over 30%. I think Broome follows second, just shy of that. So just as an example, if
I can't imagine Broome would allow it.
If Broome and Oneida both said they voted no for the Wilson-Pakula, then whoever would file for that Wilson-Pakula would not get it.
Got it.
You can't get greater than 50% at that point.
Now, on the other hand, if they felt he could maybe offset some of the upstate vote maybe downstate, they would have an interest in allowing him to be in the race.
Certainly.
So it's all strategy.
Sure, you could have a fourth person in the race. At this point, it looks like we have 3 people that will be in the race. Don't strike anybody out because they didn't get an endorsement.
Right.
They're still eligible to go carry petitions and file their designating petitions for the process.
All right, let's
get
get
to
to
that. They force a primary.
Let's get to the meat of this. Why is all of this? I mean, we know. Listen, I say we should just move everything aside. Claudia Tenney has real issues with people within the Republican Party in Oneida County. There are issues. And that is where this fight comes from. There are people that really do not get along with Claudia Tenney. But it was a battle. New Hartford, I'm hearing, pretty much supports Claudia. What can you tell us about this battle between Claudia and the party?
So I can certainly tell you the last part of your statement is true.
New Hartford stands by.
So Claudia is from New Hartford. She's a lifer from New Hartford. She currently represents New Hartford and Paris from Oneida County in the 101st. And so I think it's important, and I think it's noble that her hometown folks support her.
Yeah.
I happen to know Claudia. I've known her for a long time since I've run campaigns in the earlier years, and she's helped me and given me some advice as an attorney. And she's a good person. And I'm not gonna be the guy that tells you why there are issues with Claudia and every other person.
We all know.
We know there's issues.
Right.
There's always people that don't get along and see the same on a certain path. I wish that our electeds, I wish the folks that are in my Republican committee would at some point mend the fences, if you will, if there's an issue to be mended. And I think we all know that there is. Claudia's a fighter. She's a smart person.
Would you agree there's no mending that fence?
I'm a person that believes that somebody needs to make that first step, because if you don't, you'll never mend it, like you say.
Yeah.
And I think that without using names, I think that folks relative to this topic are afraid to put that first step forward. And I think it hurts all of us.
Yeah.
It does, because here I am on a radio show talking about one of my county residents who's seeking NY22 Congress, and she doesn't have a rally behind her. So your point is well taken, that people are looking at this and there are issues.
And even the issue in Herkimer County. I know there was some, there's a division down there in Herkimer County right now. And the fact that they didn't endorse is there's enough here where this should be unanimous. Herkimer County should be endorsing Claudia Tenney. Oneida County should be endorsing Claudia Tenney. But it's not going to happen because of the previous decade. It just won't. I mean, and let me ask you, how much can someone, sooner or later, you got to realize you're going to need a friend. And when you undermine, when you kind of get in and back and forth and tweet out, I mean, should she be surprised? I don't think she should be surprised here.
Sure, and so I'm going to be careful with my words, Bill.
I'm trying to be careful with mine too.
I'm not going to, tee off on yours that when you use the word undermine. So I'm looking at this from the chairman of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
My job is procedurally to run the meeting, to run the process, to make sure it's done in a democratic and fair way. And I'm pretty sure I did that.
You didn't vote.
I did not vote.
You would be a tiebreaker.
I did not vote. My role is a tiebreaker.
Yeah. And I asked you, I got to ask for the record, how would you have voted?
It's, unless it's presented to you, unless you have to make that decision, I don't have that answer right now. I like Claudia. She's a really good person. She's from my county. Steve Wells is a really great guy and a businessman, and we've had several conversations, and he's very smart on the policies, as is Claudia. So, again, I'm not presented, so I don't have to make that vote.
Yeah.
So I think it's a moot point.
Tell me about Steve Wells. So we've been, by the way, unable to get on the radio. We have been vehemently trying to get him on the air.
All right, I'm not going to speak for him. I know he's been traveling, as have I for my business. But Steve's been on the road. I know he would spend some time in Washington. Steve's a good guy. He's a family man. He's a former prosecutor down in Texas. He's close to home. Casanovia's not that far from us. People are concerned that the seat's out of the county. Casanovia's not that far if he were to win. Again, we don't have a winner. We've got multiple players that are coming into this primary. that are going to go out and collect their signatures. They're going to work hard to win the primary and to run for Congress in November. So we're a long ways away from deciding where this seat is going to be.
However, I got to tell you, when was the last time you had a candidate that people had stickers on their windows, and the stickers are ABC stickers, anyone but Claudia? That shows you how volatile this is. And I'm told this Saturday, this was heated. Everyone dug in. Both sides dug in. It was heated.
I would disagree. So
Okay.
I would say that your source is not accurate.
All right.
I would say that it was a.
Would you say that the part about digging in, those that are on one side or the other?
Well, I mean, define it, right? So 51.5% of the people
Right.
dug in and voted for Steve Wells,
Yeah.
and 40+% voted for Claudia Tenney.
Right.
So I'm defined again. The folks from New Hartford dug in for Claudia. It's her hometown. The folks from another part of the county dug in for Steve Wells.
At the end of the day, Oneida County will lose if the party is divided. If the people are divided, we could very well lose the seat. It goes to Madison County. We may not see this back for a long time in Oneida County.
That's true. However, the primary process is a process for the voters in the county or in the 8 counties.
Sure.
This process isn't for the 350 of us in the United County Republican Committee to determine who this is going to be.
And that was the number, by the way, that voted? Somebody asked that question. About 300 or so?
Just shy of 300 with
Okay.
proxies.
Got it.
So like I said, this race is long from over. It's up to the voters of the county. And I tell you, if you look at Claudia Tenney's track record, she's done pretty well. She doesn't give up. She's feisty, and she wins.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll give that to her.
You're saying don't count her out.
Absolutely not. She's a hard worker, and she has her mind focused on what she wants, and she's going to go after it.
And you had said don't count them out. So are you saying that George Phillips and, forgive me, it's Babbitt, still have a
Martin
shot?
Babinec. So in my opinion, you have Claudia Tenney, who's been endorsed by Oswego County. She's still going to go collect her petitions all throughout the New York 22.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Wells has been endorsed by Madison and Oneida County. Likewise, he's going to collect petitions throughout the 8 counties. George Phillips, he's been endorsed by Broome County, the second largest county in the NY22. He's not going to give up. He's going to go and he's going to get support, and he'll probably do very well down in the Broome
He
area.
sent out a letter up here to say, isn't it time that Broome County gets a shot at this?
Yeah.
Why would you send that to Oneida County?
So
I'm kind of wondering.
So I have a problem with that. I'm about a person that's capable to go to Washington and do the job. To me, it's not about let me go win this seat for Broome County and take it out of Oneida. That's not the purpose of this at all. And so to answer your question, and Martin Babinec, certainly it's up to him if he files petitions. But
he might not get in.
Yeah, he may not get in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Based on what you've told me, it's a long haul for him.
It is, especially since my committee has made it clear to me that their position is you need to support who we endorse, Pete, and not anybody that's not in our party.
But he still had third, right? Babinec?
Third in Oneida County.
Yes.
Okay. Very, very difficult, the position you're in. I really appreciate you coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Not easy, so thanks so much. Hold on tight. Again, thank you to Pete Sobel. Quick break. WIBX Utica Rome. It is 8 o'clock.